I am so excited to welcome my incredible friend. She is an author, a YouTuber with almost 70 million views, which I know is so hard as a new YouTuber. Like, I know how hard that is to achieve. An ex MTV reality star, an entrepreneur, a total woman boss. But I want to describe you as the big sister, best friend, therapist that I wish I had growing up. Like, I'm always like, when I think of you, Shallon, I'm like, this is the girl I wish I had in my life at least 10 years ago, if not sooner, because my life would be so different. And honestly, you're somebody who I feel has changed my life probably more than anybody else I've met in the past 5, 10 years. Like, really, you've made such a significant change in like who I am today. So I just want to thank you and start by saying, like, guys, if you guys are watching this today, you guys need to follow Shallon. She has the most incredible content ever, completely life-changing. And really, you're somebody who I feel has like completely woken up me as well as all the people who I've introduced your content to and everybody that follows you. Of course, like, you have the most amazing community of just like alpha females who just want to have the best lives ever. So I just want to start with that introduction. Shallon Lester, I'm so excited to have you on. And so excited for everyone here to get to know you and just understand why you're doing what you're doing, because you have a lot of passion for making women not be their worst enemy and be their best friend. And I love that about you. And I just would love to know if you could share with everybody maybe just a brief introduction of what it is you're doing and why you're doing it.
Oh my God, that was like the best intro. Like, do you want to write my eulogy or my LinkedIn? Like, just, you should be like 10 steps ahead of me at all time, being like, hello, this is Shallon.
I will. I'll do that. I'll do it.
You're going to have to quit your job. Okay. Everyone's like, where were you 10 years ago? Like, I was making all the same mistakes 10 years ago. Like, I am in the trenches with you guys in terms of like body image, dating, confidence, work stuff. Like, we're all just kind of doing this together. I might be like a few steps down the road, but like, that's about it. So on my channel, we do like celebrity breaking news, and like, not just because I used to be the editor of Star Magazine, so I know a lot about celebrities and I kind of know how that world works from the inside and things that people don't see. And, you know, sort of the PR machine that I try to strip away and be like, here's what actually might be going on. But more than that, just like the lessons we can learn from it. Like when Kim filed for divorce, like, how do you know when it's time to leave a relationship? How do you start over? So I try to take stuff that we're all like, you know, interested in, our like guilty pleasures of pop culture, and give it some psychology and use it as more than just a guilty pleasure, but how can we actually use it to reshape our lives and just be confident and break free from the tyranny of thinking like a relationship is going to save us. A guy is going to save us. We're nothing without a man. We need men to validate our body, and we're comparing ourselves on social media. So I'm trying to just get us out of that headspace and into more positive ones.
I love that you do that. And I love that you're always using like celebrity news, celebrity gossip, because it just gives us so many stories to relate to and to understand. So it's like every time I go to your channel, which is like every time you upload, I think I've watched every video you have. I'm literally like, I'm going to learn today about like a new experience. And like, it just saves me from having to make those mistakes myself. So I just love that you're sharing so much wisdom with all of us. And honestly, it's been some of the best therapy I've ever had is like watching your channel.
I've heard that, and I love therapy and I go to therapy, but it's like, I think women like us and all the people who watch my channel and all the people who watch your channel, we're like very high level thinkers already, you know? And it's like, okay, like, I don't want to sit in therapy for 8 months and just talk and talk. Like, I want to get to the good stuff. Like, how do I change my life? How do I stop doing this? How do I get better friendships, better romances? Like, let's cut to the chase. Like, we got stuff to do. We got businesses to run. We've got friends to see. Like, I don't want to just endlessly like, oh, like navel gaze at my problems.
Absolutely. I want to know why you're so passionate about what you do, because I think about myself and like I have so much passion for helping people, for healing people. And it's because I'm super sensitive and I've also gone through a lot of my own situations where I felt a lot of pain. So I'm like, I want to help people out with that. Like with you and like you helping all these women kind of be the best version of themselves. Like, were you ever like the doormat? Like, I've always wondered that about you. I'm like, was she the doormat once? Like, I couldn't imagine you being that because you're so strong. But I'm like, why is she so passionate that like something that is driving you to like create content almost on a daily basis and you're sharing it with a lot of intensity, lots of passion. Like I see it like through the camera, like, why are you so passionate about this? Like, have you been through a lot yourself?
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's like I've been through a lot and yet I haven't. It's like I've just been through all the things that we as women go through, like situationships and low self-esteem. And I look back on my 20s when I was in New York. I'd written 2 books before I was 28. I had my own show. I was the editor of a magazine, and I was like, I'm a failure. But then I would veer into be like, I'm the best, but I'm such a failure. And it was because like I didn't have a boyfriend, or I didn't feel like I had that validation from guys, or I wish I weighed 8 pounds less and I was already thin. It's like there was just always something that I was chewing on, something that I was like, well, I'd be happy if only I had this. And it's like, that was my youth. That was my 20s, and they're never coming back. And, you know, I don't want to spend my 30s like that. I want to spend my 40s like that. I don't want any woman to waste her life in this state of like, I don't even know what to call it, anti-mindfulness, anti-presence, where it's like, well, if only I had this, like, count your freaking blessings. Like, let's be present where we are. Be like, heck yeah, I've got this job. Heck yeah, I've got these friends in this body. And okay, I'm on a path to getting where I want to go. But when I've achieved things, when I published my books, I don't remember how I felt when I first saw it on the shelf at Barnes and Noble. I remember how I felt when I was writing it. I remember the process. And that was like actually the beautiful part of so many things we experience. It's the process, it's the climb. And I just want women to like embrace that and not always feel like there's some goalpost that keeps moving that they're chasing. Like let's be present. And if this pandemic has taught us anything, like life is precious, and all the things we think are guaranteed and our norms, and oh, well, we can just count on this to be that way tomorrow, and everything's guaranteed. Like we know now that's not the case. So why are we wasting time in toxic relationships, toxic friendships, relationships with ourselves that are toxic? Like let's cut to the chase and be better and be happy. Let's just be happy. So I just
Absolutely.
want to like shake girls out of it. It's like, don't do what I've done.
100%. And I completely agree with you. And I was just thinking while you were talking, because I remember when I first started following you, it was when I was deciding on whether or not I should leave a relationship that was super toxic, very manipulative, very like
Refrigerator.
it was
Refrigerator.
the refrigerator, 100%.
Refrigerator.
And I remember writing to you then before we even connected, and I was like, let me like get some advice from Shallon. Let me see what she's all about. And I remember like you writing me back saying like, it seems like you have a low self-esteem. And I remember when you first sent it to me, I was pissed. I was like,
I know.
I was like, Shallon told me I have a low self-esteem. What is she talking about? Like, because I thought I had a high self-esteem, because I think in many areas of my life I do, or I did.
Yes.
But when I finally like let go of my ego and like started peeling it back, I was like, actually, she's like 1000% spot on. I did have a low self-esteem, which made me have such low standards. And
Yes.
it's a hard pill to swallow. And that's one thing I do love about like your content and your approach. You are super bold, you're sassy, you tell people how it is. And I know like not everyone's going to be happy with that, but it's what you need to hear to change. And I remember like that message that you sent me over email when I had like, asked you the question, it was like really a huge epiphany for me to wake up and change my life and understand like, break it down, like your favorite thing to see, like unpack this, like why do I have a low self-esteem, and really like process it out. What is your advice to girls who have low self-esteems, or even to check in and see like, do I have a low self-esteem or not? Because I think a lot of people aren't even aware.
Yeah. In some ways, society tells us we should have low self-esteem. Work hard, stay humble. Fuck humble. I'm not humble. Humble is for losers. Like, look at what you've achieved, Mona. Look at what I've achieved. Like, and it's not about making other people feel bad or like rubbing it in someone's face, but like, I'm not going to downplay everything I have worked so hard to become so that I'm like tiny as society wants me. Like, no. And I don't want any woman to be like that. So we get that validation of being like, I'm just a quiet little girl. Like, don't brag. Like, brag in a good way, brag from a way that's like, hey, I've done this. You can do that. You can do that. Let's all do it, in like a pack building kind of way. But I think what changed for me with my low self-esteem, because like I said, on paper, things are great. And then I would veer into very braggy, but then I would veer into like, oh my God, I'm like nothing. I'm a nobody. Was my phrase is like, people with high self-esteem do esteemable things. We craft a life that is full of like integrity. And integrity means your behaviors match your morality. You know, I think of myself as a good person who helps people. And then, but if I sit and I'm like, well, when was the last time I actually helped somebody? I yelled at that lady in Target yesterday. So it's like, am I helping? You know, do I have that integrity? So volunteering for me was like an absolute game changer. It was a game changer. Like, it gave me enough like little shame about like, my life is so hard. Is it? You know, like when I'm volunteering at a homeless shelter, it's hard to feel sorry for yourself. And it gives you a sense of value and purpose in this world that has nothing to do with your size or your income or what your sister says about you or who dumped you. It's like, I am making a difference in this world. And you become addicted to that feeling. And you just want to find other ways to get that. And then you become a better listener with your friends. But yeah, it's like and then you're like, you overcome challenges, and challenges are no longer seen as something bad. It's like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. I can put that IKEA desk together, and then I can reapply for law school. I can start that Etsy store. It's just this ladder of confidence. It doesn't happen in one day. It's not about posting a meme. It's not about deciding. It's a bunch of small steps, which is good because who can't do small steps? We can all do that.
Absolutely. I love something that you say quite often. It's I don't remember exactly how you word it, but it's like the way to being a hot girl is just deciding you're a hot girl. And I always think about that when I'm feeling kind of like not so good about myself, and I'm like, you know what, let me just decide that I am the shit today. And I always think about what you say, and I'm like, you know what, all the times that I quote unquote had it all in my life where I was like the weight I wanted to be, or like looked the way I wanted to look, it never like reflected in my confidence. In fact, those were the times where I was usually the least confident because I was so obsessed. So I love that you always say that. What would be your tips on just feeling confident when you don't have, like, if you feel like you're not confident at the time?
I really always do go back to that phrase, like the secret to being a hot girl is just deciding that you are one. Because I had a therapist one time and I was like obsessed with losing weight. And I was like beside myself that I felt so fat. And she's like, when you picture your ideal weight, like, what do you picture? I'm like, I'm at a beach in Mexico. I'm in my bikini. I'm strutting around. And I was using a lot of like adjectives about my attitude. I feel good. I'm confident. I'm bold. I'm flirty. I'm sassy. And she's like, what if you just did that? And I was like, I mean, come on, you can't just do that. Why would I do that if I don't have that weight? And she's like, you're the only one that put that obstacle between you and that attitude. Nobody else did. You see people bigger than you with that attitude. You see people smaller than you. It's not that weight. It's your decision to roadblock yourself off from that happiness. So remove it. And it was the most revolutionary thing I'd ever heard, that you could simply decide to be happy and confident. And with our bodies, it's different. It's like sometimes we aren't at a weight where we physically feel good about ourselves, you know? And I'm not saying like you should talk yourself into something that actually is not right, but you'd be surprised how your body and your mind goes along with that. We don't want to be happy. Our psyche doesn't want that. So if we're giving our psyche like a life raft, like, hey, let's latch on to this like kind of fake it till you make it attitude, your mind's like, all right, let's do it. And the confidence comes. And then until it's no longer fake, you're like, I actually just feel good in my swimsuit. I'm not stressing about it because yesterday I didn't stress about it and I had an awesome day. So why would I want to go back to a place where I'm not happy? Okay, we're going to step into this new persona of fake confidence that's eventually going to become real. And sometimes it's hard to like just organically manufacture that confidence. Like confidence idols, like celebrities, like Kourtney Kardashian is so confident to me. You are so confident to me. So when I don't feel good about myself, like I zip myself into the Mona suit and I'm like, okay,
Oh my gosh.
how would Mona act? I'm playing Mona in a play right now. And it doesn't always feel like natural, but eventually it does. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, this feels good moving through the world like this. And then like the two meld.
That's so funny because I think of you. I'm like, I need to like
We're
put
the
on
same
Shallon
person.
right now. And like even that whole, that phrase that you say, I relate it to everything. I'm like, I'm gonna decide I'm gonna be a good speaker today. I'm gonna decide that I'm gonna be
Yes.
a good decision maker today. And it's just like making that decision. You
Yeah.
can relate it to every area of your life. So I've used
Yes.
that quite a lot. Which has been amazing. I also want to say, just watching you be this bold, alpha female who really is sassy but still feminine. And you can tell, you really are proud of being a woman, but you're also just really bold and audacious. And that's something that really inspired me to be a little bit more bold myself. I think I've also been someone who's been taught to be super humble, be a bit quiet, kind of make yourself invisible, especially being, someone who has Middle Eastern roots. It's something that they kind of condition you to do growing up.
Yeah.
So I love that you're always sharing with people to really just celebrate yourself. And, watching someone like you be so bold and strong really liberates other women to be so bold and strong. And I know you get a lot of criticism because people will sometimes say you're probably a little bit too direct or a little
Oh.
bit too opinionated.
Oh yes.
And honestly, I love one thing you say. You're like, I don't have to agree with everything you say, which,
Yeah.
of course, you're not going to agree with everything anyone says, because, of course, that's
Right.
not going to happen. But to at least share yourself with the world and let people take away what they need to take away from it is really important. And I think you're doing that just by being a bold, beautiful woman. So I just want to say thank you for inspiring me to be more bold myself. Really, because that's something I've been struggling with from my childhood. Like I grew up where, my mom was she still is very traditional, very conservative, very quiet. Like even when I used to laugh out loud, she'd be like, "Don't laugh out loud. Like shame on you." And I was like, "Oh my God!" Like I literally had to be so like toned down. Still working on, but I love your sassiness, and I know sometimes that's probably like gotten you some criticism and everything. And I've seen that, and personally, I'm like, guys, you don't know what Shallon's all about. If you watched all her content, you wouldn't take it out of
Yeah.
context and like use it the wrong way. How do you deal with like the criticism and the haters?
Really hard. This is when I zip myself into the Mona suit. I do, because so many times I want to just like rah, like go for the throat, and I'm like, I don't want Mona to see that. And so I don't do it. It's like I am just going to try to be a little bit more poised and a little bit more controlled. But I mean, it's tough. We put ourselves out there in what we do, and it's like you share your heart and soul, I share my heart and soul. Like, yeah, we're public figures, but like people just like misery is such at an all-time high right now, and people are like on their little Twitter fingers. And it's like, I just think we can't save everyone. When people come to my channel and they're ready to like receive the message of like getting better and not bitter and growing and changing, like they become like ride or die followers and fans. And I know yours are the same way. And other people, it's just like, I mean, it's tough. You have to feel sorry for them, but I'm also kind of a warlike person, as you've seen. And I don't abide a lot of bullshit. When you can disagree with me, you can say, hey, you're not my cup of tea. Here's a counter argument. Great. Like I love different points of view, but if you come here and like, you're a stupid this and you're a blah, 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 and you need to go die, and I want your dog to die. Mm-mm-mm-mm, mm-mm. Because I would be doing such a disservice to my own message to allow that. There's unbothered, and then there's like weak. And I have my own particular boundaries, and my boundaries might not be somebody else's boundaries. What really gets under my skin might not bother somebody else, and vice versa. And I don't want anyone to set my boundaries for me and be like, that shouldn't have bothered you. Well, great, start your own channel and let it not bother you. So I have my boundaries and my lines in the sand, and I defend them. And people don't like that either. The same people who think I'm too mouthy definitely don't want me to defend myself. And again, that's something we see as women all the time. Don't make waves, let it go. Don't be confrontational. Like, you have worked your whole life to build your brand and what you have. And so have I. And if you come against it, you come for the king, you best not miss.
I love it. Preach. I love it so much. I love, I do want to touch up on Evil Week, because that's actually one of your playlists that I love so much. And I know you did get criticism for that too, but I really do believe, like, for me, as somebody who has been manipulated by people, who's fallen victim to a lot of things, like Evil Week to me was a lot of awareness of like the kind of traps that people put you into. And I think that what you're sharing with the world is like the knowledge, and it's their choice of how to use it. You know, it's kind of like, I know you refer to 48 laws of power a lot, and those kind of techniques, but it's like, really, is it wrong for us to be aware of what could happen? Of course not. Like, and I would love if you could maybe share a little bit about Evil Week and like why you created it, and what lessons we could take from that.
Mm-hmm. Evil Week is a series I do it culminates on Halloween, and it's 7 days, 7 videos about the 7 deadly sins and like what we can learn, like envy, how to destroy a hater. I think the most incendiary one I did was how to cheat and get away with it. But I say at the very beginning of the video, just don't cheat. Like, just if you're really trying to cheat and get away with it, you're not in the right relationship. Just be happy, go release everyone. But here is what you can do, because this is what I had done when I was younger and bad and cheating on someone. Here's now the signs I see when people cheat on us. Like, forewarned is forearmed. And I was thinking about this the other day, because like, if you had cancer, would you want a doctor that only knew about chemotherapy and radiation and knew actually nothing about cancer? Didn't know really what it was or how it grew? No, we can't just focus on solutions. We have to look at the problems that create them. And we have to know everything about the cancerous aspects of humanity and behavior before we can act like we can combat them and insulate ourselves from them. And if these are the tricks that people are using against us, why can't we use them for good and not evil? I'm an extremely manipulative person, but the word manipulation is such a bad connotation. It's not. We manipulate. Daddy, can I borrow the car? It's too dangerous to take the bus. Like, that's just how, especially we as women, have to move through the world. We don't have the advantage of being like so bold and so out there like men are. We have to be like much more securitous. And so why can we not arm ourselves with the tools that the world is constantly using against us? And the people who don't like that, like I say on my channel, the people who hate our boundaries, the people who hate what we do, it's because they benefited from us having no boundaries at all. People who don't want us to have knowledge would rather, we're much more malleable if we feel like little turtles without a shell. And, oh, is that what's going on? Hell yeah, that's what's going on. Don't play that game against me. I'll play it back to you, but better.
I love it.
And that's what I want. Yeah. So I love Evil Week. Everyone loves it.
It's my favorite playlist, if I'm honest. And again, like I used it for good, because like I was like, oh, that is exactly how I could have known that so-and-so was doing this or doing that.
Yeah.
It, like, there's so much awareness from it. Speaking of boundaries, literally that sentence you always say, what you permit, you promote. I put it on my to-do list. It's like at the top, and I see it every day. Like, it's there as a reminder to me, because I was someone who didn't have many boundaries until very recently. I wasn't even aware I didn't have boundaries, which I know might sound crazy.
Same. No, I think it's like, if you ask anyone, it's like, do you have boundaries? They're like, well, yeah, of course. But then if you have to name them, it's like, actually, I don't know that I do. From things like I'm not answering texts after 10 p.m. Little things to like, if you don't schedule a date 3 days in advance, I'm not going,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like, that sentence that you said literally has been one other thing that you've done that has changed my life, because I repeat it to myself all the time. Every time I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do this, but I'm doing this, I stop myself and I'm like, what I permit, I promote. I'm not going to do this, because then I'm going to encourage that behavior to keep repeating itself. So it's really drastically changed me. And I've also shared it with other people, and like everyone's like, it's just such a great reminder. What like 2 to 3 tips do you recommend to people to kind of like set up their boundaries and start saying no to people? Like, what advice would you give?
I'd say start small. Like, if you have boundaries for yourself, you're going to be much more comfortable deploying boundaries for other people. Like, something I do every single day is I make my bed. Rain or shine, hungover or not, late or not, I make my bed. And that is simply what I do. It sets the tone for me getting up and doing something that like, I don't want to do. But I'm like, okay, if I did something I don't want to do at 7 a.m., I can do something I don't want to do after my coffee. Like, it just gives me this sense of accomplishment and personal responsibility. So it's like, don't treat me like that. I'm a girl who makes her bed. You don't know who I am. Like, it just makes me feel a little stronger. I also come up with a rubric. Like, I read this book called Essentialism. I talked about it's our new book club selection.
I just bought it. Haven't read it yet.
It's so good.
I can't wait to read it.
Good.
I buy
listen
like
to it
every
all.
book
I
you
like to listen to
recommend.
it's changed my life because it's about setting boundaries. And it's in the book, they talk about having like, I have one for like business opportunities and then one for social opportunities. It has to hit like three baseline things. Like I have time, I have energy, I want to do it, right? But then there has to be three top tier things. It makes me feel more connected. There's no anxiety. I come out feeling healthier. And if this opportunity doesn't hit two out of those three, I don't do it. Like, okay, going out and drinking all night with my friends is like fun and I want to do it and I have time to do it, but is it going to make me feel healthier? No. Like, is it going to give me anxiety? Yeah, it's going to ruin the whole next day. I don't do it, you know? And so then I have like a categorization system for opportunities and my boundaries. And so it's less personal. It's not like I'm saying no to Mona who wants to go out and like to a male strip club all night. I'm saying no to it doesn't hit the rubric, you know? So, okay, like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't fit into this pre-designed organization system that I have. So it feels less like you're rejecting people because again, we don't want to do that. Boundaries suck. Tough love is called that because it's tough on us. It's not tough on the people getting it. It's tough on us. But I also say that, like, if people don't respect your boundaries, like I said, they benefited from you having none. And you would be so surprised how many people in your life either don't care about your boundaries, they're fine with it. Like, oh, she doesn't want to do that, that's fine. Or they're like, I don't like that. Like, they're inspired by you putting up a wall of honesty. I don't like to go camping. I'm not going to go, you know, or like, I can't afford to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm sorry. I'm on a diet. No, have fun. People are going to be like, all right. They might not love it, but they're going to respect it. And then you're going to have to deploy the boundaries less and less and less. You're just going to move through the world in a way that is like just boundaryful. It's just they're going to precede you. And it's not even going to be a conscious decision every time you have to deploy one.
I love that. And, you know, it's funny because you were saying like some people probably like you more for it. Recently, I started having more boundaries with Hida because you know, I grew up very close to her, like a year and a half apart. She's my older sister. So like my parents would always be like, do what Hida wants you to do. So I was very codependent with her. And just recently I started saying no to her and started saying like, no, I don't want to do this, or like, I'd like to do things this way. And she loves it. She's like, I
Yeah,
love it, Mona. And I was like, yes. Like,
because we've all had friends who you can tell they don't want to do something.
mhm.
And it's like, they don't want to go to sushi, but they go. And then they're like, they're bitching the whole time. They're anxious. They're just, and you're like, if you didn't want to go, why didn't you just say so? Or why did you just not come? Like, come on. And when people are living their truth, they're so much cooler. They're so much more magnetic. You know what you're dealing with as a person. It's like, okay, I'm not going to ask her to do this. She's not going to do it. That's fine. I'm going to go to somebody else who I know wants to accomplish this task. Like, strong people want other strong people. Hot chicks support hot chicks, you know, that phrase. I love that phrase. It's like, if you feel good about yourself, you want everyone around you to feel good. So I'm
Absolutely.
not surprised. She's like, I love it.
Yeah. She was like, I have so much more respect for you now. And I was like, damn, I wish I started doing this earlier. I was always scared to say no to you. But it's been life-changing. Um, I wanted
Amazing.
to know, did you do a lot of therapy? Do you do a lot of therapy? Like, if you could tell us, like, because I just started my therapy journey very recently. Like, I started about a year and a half ago. But before, I think I was very disconnected with my inner self and like my feelings and processing things. But like, when I look at you, I'm like, I feel like you are me 10 years from now. I would love to know what kind of therapy you do or you recommend to people as well.
Cognitive behavioral therapy is my favorite because, I mean, some people like psychoanalysis, which is just like the talking and the talking and the talking. And like I said, I want to like get in, get out, like tell me what to do. Cognitive behavioral therapy is good because they will give you like mantras. I lost a bunch of weight before I got married. We'll get to that in a second. By using the mantra, I'm okay as I am, because I realize I eat out of anxiety, or I'm like, sure, we can get dessert, you know, and it was people pleasing. And it's like, I'm okay the way I am. I'm okay the way I am. And it helped me dial down the mania. And so CBT can give you like things to do, journaling activities. It's really very like hands-on. But I think like therapy is definitely super helpful. And if you feel like you're reaching a roadblock, they can just kind of connect the dots. Like a therapist turns a starry sky into constellations. They just like connect the dots. They're like, that's what that is. You're like, oh. But for me, the quantum leap was getting divorced. I should not have gotten married in the first place. I mean, I loved him. We had a wonderful relationship, but that's the thing. We had a wonderful relationship. I didn't need to get married. But I was like, married, because I felt not on schedule. I thought it was going to save me from all of these things. Like, this is just like what I have to do. And it ruined our relationship. And when the writing was on the wall that like, this is not savable, there was just so many things that I was afraid of. Losing the love of my life, losing financially, getting wiped out, losing my status as a wife, my idea of the future. And every one of those things happened.
Wow.
Every awful, hellish thought came to pass. And I was still here though. And I realized that one day and I'm like, I am actually in a sort of hell, but I'm not really. Like I have my friends, I have my career, I'm still laughing, I'm still hopeful about the future. And then it was like, oh my God, now I'm not afraid of anything anymore. I've faced every single demon. I faced the reality of why I got into a marriage that was not the correct choice. And I'm like, I'm never going to be afraid of anything again. I'm not afraid to be alone. I'm not afraid to walk away from something. I'm not afraid to look at the monster under the bed about why I'm staying with a stupid guy or a stupid job or a stupid friend. Like, let's look at it, you know? So it's like, I just feel like I went through this trial by fire and came out really strong the other side with like a zero bullshit tolerance. Cause it's like, no one can hurt me anymore. I've already experienced what I think the worst relationship outcome could be. And it's like, okay, I'm still here.
What is your advice to someone who is maybe still in a marriage, but they think they should get divorced or someone who's just going through a divorce? Like, what would you recommend to them to help them get through it?
I mean, it's so tough. It's so tough because you feel like the sadness is like this abyss you're going to fall into and you're never going to get out. And you can feel like that when you go to therapy too. And I think that keeps a lot of people from looking at past trauma. It's like, if I start crying about this, I'll never stop. But it's like a splinter. I always talk about psychological splinters. If you leave a splinter in, it festers, it's painful. If you just do the thing and pull it out, it heals. But when you're in a relationship, like, people, they say the same thing. First of all, there's the sunk cost bias that kicks in. It's a psychological thing where, well, I've already spent 5 years with him. What am I going to throw that away? 5 years is better than 5 years in one day, right? And if you can learn from what it is, from this relationship, okay, why did I allow those red flags that I saw? What was I telling myself to make this behavior from him or from myself okay? Then it's not just this painful story has just a painful, stupid end. It's a painful chapter in a larger story that has a happy ending. It's not just pain, it's growing pains. And so therefore, it's not a wasted 5 years. It's not a wasted 10 or 25 years. It's a learning 10 or 25 years. It's school. You just went to school and now you're ready to graduate. Okay, I've learned those lessons. I'm ready to graduate, and graduating from school is scary. What am I going to be if I'm not a student? What's my life going to look like? But you do it because you know you can't stay in high school forever. And you just do it. You just figure it out. So of course it's natural to be scary, that it's going to be scary. But once you start moving through it, it's like you start to fall in love with yourself. If you learn the lessons, you allow yourself those lessons and the embarrassment that comes with it and the regret that comes with it. But it's like, that's still learning. We will learn things in school and we graduate and we get into our dream college or whatever. We don't fixate on the chemistry test we failed sophomore year. We're like, well, I've moved on from it and I've learned from it and I've done better. So we're moving forward. And relationships have to be like that. We can't stay stuck. We have to keep moving forward because there is such beauty moving forward. I don't know anyone who's gotten out of a bad relationship and regretted it. I mean, you just don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting when you mention like the sunk cost aspect of it all, because I think that's what keeps a lot of us in relationships. And it's funny because my last relationship, it was only about a year and a half, 2 years, but like that was keeping me going because I was like, I'm in my mid-30s, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when am I going to meet the next person? I might as well just marry him and have a baby. And like all these thoughts come into your head. And honestly, it's just completely ridiculous. Like when you say it
It's
out
true.
loud.
It's yeah. When you say it out loud, but then there's always like, someone, one of the big reasons I got married, a therapist I had at the time, because I confessed to her, I was like, I don't know that this is right. And she's like, how old are you? And I was like, 31. And she's like, you are too old to turn any guy down. You need to get married and start having babies. And I was like,
Oh my God, that just gave me goosebumps. That is crazy.
yeah. And it sounds crazy that I believed it, but I did. Because it's like when someone is parroting your worst fears to you, you're like, are you the devil? Or Jesus telling me the truth? Like,
Yeah.
you believe it, So it's very important to get clear with yourself and almost like not convey those fears to people who might not give you the message that you need. And so it's like you surround yourself with people who are going to be like, you really think you're never going to meet another guy? Really? Like, come on. If you want a baby, you can acquire a baby. Like, let's get serious, because we tell ourselves that we have so few options. And truly, if one of our friends had said that to us, you would never say that to her, right? If I said, do you think I should just marry this guy who's like awful and is cheating on me and have a baby? Like, no, right?
Yeah. It's so funny because my parents were doing that to me also. They were like, you have no time, like just marry him, whatever. And I'm like, and then I realized like they were kind of the cause of my low standards and self-esteem because they're just trying to rush me into marriage and children. And thank God I'm over that now. But it's funny because watching your videos, you always talk about unpacking your feelings, processing your experiences, your emotions. So recently I took like my notes and I mapped out like every guy I ever dated and all the mistakes I made, all the red flags I ignored and everything. And this is like all because of like your church that I go to every few days.
Hallelujah.
When we talk about dating, like I know there's so much that you can share and I know you have so much wisdom and advice to give, but if you wanted to share with people like the top 5 red flags to watch out for when you meet a person, a guy or even a girl, like what would you recommend to stay away from?
The biggest red flag is your own desperation. Like, when I am at a place where my career's not going well, my friendships aren't where they need to be, my body and my health are on the back burner. I am so susceptible to terrible people. Not even people who are like predatory and manipulative, just garden variety losers that I am making a million excuses for. It's like, that's fine. He is doing coke on Christmas Eve. It doesn't matter. Please don't leave me. It's like, because I don't feel like I'm okay on my own. So I'm looking for that emotional getaway car. But red flags, I mean, pay attention to how people speak about women. Women they don't know, waitresses, women they do know, like their mothers. That's how he's going to speak about you. Ambition. We're very ambitious women. I require that. And I don't care if you're ambitious to be the best plumber in Montana. Good for you. Like whatever your goals are, great, but have goals. And because if they don't and you do, they're always going to resent you for it. Guys who want to Snapchat you. If you have to Snapchat, keep it moving. Keep it moving. Guys who ask for nudes. This is a huge, huge problem. Like we didn't grow up in the era of like Snapchat and nudes and all this stuff. Thank God. But women, girls, but also women think that it's like a compliment. Like he thinks I'm so sexy. And we all want to feel sexy. We want to feel beautiful and seen and noticed and validated in that way. And it's like he's trophy hunting. This is not a compliment. He's sitting with his boys being like, let me see what I can get her to do. You just watch. Like this is no healthy relationship has started with like crotch shots. They just don't. So that's a big one. But I think red flags. I know once we get off, I'll be like, I
Well, those are a lot of good ones, and honestly, one thing that I learned from watching your videos, which is a red flag that I took just to like make note of, is consistency. Like when people are inconsistent,
Yes.
that is like one of the biggest red flags to watch out for, and that's like something I pay attention to so closely now. I'm like, are their messages consistent? Are their tones consistent? Are they like very volatile? And that was something that I realized I used to always kind of ignore. But yeah.
That's true. Because like there has to be, so the two signs a guy likes you in like the right way, there's the consistency, there's the pattern of behavior, but there's the escalation. Because if you just have consistency, you have a friend, you know? If you have escalation but no consistency, you have a fuckboy, right?
Yeah.
He's going like 0 to 60 and then back down again, and every 2 weeks, and you're like, what? But a normal guy, I use the example of like a firework versus a fireplace. Like a fuckboy is a firework. They come big, here for a good time, long time. And fireworks will burn you if you get too close. But a quality guy is a fireplace. I mean, they take a minute to warm up. They might not be razzle dazzle on the first date or even the second, you know, that's okay. But a fireplace is going to keep you warmer longer.
Absolutely. I love that so much. So switching back to like, what should people actually look for? And sort of like the red flags, like what are like the top couple of qualities that you'd recommend people do look for when finding like a partner or dating? Like, what would you say are like the non-negotiables that people should kind of demand?
I think listening, good listeners, you know, guys who have an organic curiosity about your life. Like we're very verbal and talkative and chatty. Like you could talk to anyone. You could talk to anyone and build a rapport. But, you know, and I do that on dates too. Like, and then I realized, I'm like, am I interviewing him? Because he's not asking a single question about me. Not like it needs to be the Shallon show. I wouldn't mind. Like, if you don't know me at all and you're not asking questions about my life, what is our relationship? You know, some other green flags. Let me see. So what to me makes an alpha, whether it's a female or a male? I think the term alpha gets a bad rap. You know, you think of like the big roided up douchebag. Blech. No, an alpha, like confidence is quiet, right? Barack Obama is the ultimate alpha. He doesn't need to be bombastic and swagger around town and brag about himself. He also doesn't need to put other people down. Like alphas are pack builders. Because even in like a wolf pack, the actual alpha wolf, he's at the back. He's at the tail end. It's the weak ones that are in the front. He's at the end, making sure everyone's good, you know? So you want to look for that in the person you're dating. Is he a pack builder? Does he get his friends together? Does he help his family? Does he help his community? Does he help himself? Is he like cognizant about his health, his goals, his life, his future? And if he's not doing that, we have to date people based on who they are. Like it's a current snapshot. We can't date potential and we can't date nostalgia. And that's really tough because it's like, but I know he's got all this potential. I could say that my dog has the potential to talk. Will he? Probably not. I kind of have to go with how he is on a day-to-day basis. Like, this is what he is. The dog can't talk, and that is what it is. And sometimes men are they're a dog that can't talk. They just max out in terms of their capabilities. We have to look that in the face.
I love that. And I used to date potential. Now I'm like, absolutely not. I actually take notes.
No.
Like while I'm talking to a guy, I'm like, let me write everything down. So I'm like not delusional. And like, then I look back and just kind of over exaggerate like the positive or like downplay the negative. So I'm like taking notes because I noticed like myself, I'm just like a hopeless romantic. So I'd always like kind of amplify the good and downplay the bad. So now I'm like, not dating potential. I want clarity of like the true picture of what it is. And I love that you talked about alphas because that's another term that I really kind of learned from your channel because previously I always thought of like alpha females and alpha males as like the loudest people in the room, the people who kind of took over. But then I realized when I did kind of like digest it, it was like the confident people were the people who allowed everybody else to kind of take their place, to talk, to speak, to have their own presence. I love that you're always talking about that. And yeah, I mean, the alpha, the beta, that's one thing that I always kind of like try to classify in my mind now. I'm like, is he alpha? Is he beta? Like, let me pay attention. Like, that's also like an indicator of who I want in my life, friends, team, employees, like everything. So it's such a great metric.
I think it's important that like not everyone is an alpha or a beta. Like a beta male is like incels on the internet, like douchebags, guys who are not pack builders, they're pack splitters. You know, they're pitting you against other people. They're cutting you down to feel better about themselves. Not everyone's a leader and not everyone's a beta. Like some people are just people, you know, that's fine. I am a lot of horsepower. So are you. So I need to date an alpha male. Like I need to date someone who is like, who knows how to drive. And same with females. Like not everyone's an alpha or a beta. Some of us are just, you know, people, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. But if we feel like there's that alpha energy inside us, like let's harness that and amplify it and like really embrace it.
It's funny because I used to, because just I do consider myself an alpha female too. And I
Mhm.
remember previously I'd always date beta males because I thought that if you're alpha, you need a beta to kind of like balance you
Yeah.
out. And I realized it was like the worst thing I could possibly do because it was just making the guys more insecure, more kind of like,
Yes.
yeah, just they'd resent me and everything like that. So I think that's such a
Yeah.
great point to make that. I think as a woman, like you should always be with a man who's a little bit more alpha than you are.
Yes. Yes. Because I don't want to wear the pants all day long. Like, I want to be the girl in the relationship. Don't make me decide every place we go to dinner. Blah, blah, blah. Like, don't run over me. Like, you're not gonna like put me in a corner. But like, I'm the boss all day long. I want a man who knows how to be a man, you know? And yeah, I think there's the misnomer that, and I don't even think it's a misnomer. I think it's a habit. Like a lot of alpha women date men who are more submissive because we're just kind of used to running things. So it's like, fine, I'll plan all the trips. I'll plan this. I'll do dinner. It's like, but when we can step back and we can have enough value of ourselves to be like, no, I deserve to have someone else kind of take the reins. I've always said, like, to me, feminism is not equality. I don't want to be treated equal. I want to be treated better. Like, because the playing field isn't
Absolutely.
equal. Absolutely. Like, the
I
playing
love
field
it.
isn't equal physically, financially, legally for women. So, like, hey, if a guy's going to come into my life, he better know what he's working with and act accordingly. And a real man loves that. They love it. They're hardwired to provide, they're hardwired to produce. We're hardwired to nurture. So let's have dynamics that fit that. He's going to be out chopping the wood, you know, planning things. I'm going to be like talking about his day and I love you and you're so smart. You know, let's find those complementary angles.
I love that. So another term that you always mention, which I love, and I also use as a metric to kind of like analyze people, is like warm-blooded versus cold-blooded. Could you
Yes.
share more about that and like what your thoughts are?
Warm-blooded versus cold-blooded is sort of my analogy for confidence. Like if you look at a cold-blooded animal, like a snake, they can't regulate their body temperature. They rely on their environment. And we see people like this. They're living for the likes. They're living for the approval. They go in whatever direction people want them to go, whether that's a guy who's pushing them too far sexually or, you know, doing whatever career people think that they should do. You know, it can be very deep-seated. A warm-blooded animal, a mammal, doesn't rely on the environment. It's coming from inside. You know, we're producing our own confidence. True confidence isn't, they're going to like me. I know they're going to like me. They're going to love me. Confidence is, I'm fine if they don't. Like that's the warm-blooded behavior. So when you can manufacture the things you need inside, you are that alpha mentality. And then you're magnetic to other people. And it's tough. You know, this is like our life's work to be warm-blooded and to be kind of a sealed vessel in terms of outside input and criticism and really following our own path and authenticity. But every step in that right direction is a step away from the wrong direction, you know?
I love that. And I think about that all the time now. I'm like, am I being warm-blooded or cold-blooded right now? I'm like, let me make sure that I'm
Yeah.
remembering, like, you know, just being super confident and just deciding that I don't need to, you know, think of other people's opinions to dictate how I feel about myself. So I love that theory. Um,
I think that there's also times when we're feeling cold-blooded, it's okay. It's like we don't have to pretend that we're perfect and we're bulletproof if we're not. Like when we're in the cold-blooded place, we can reach out to the people we love and be like, I do not feel good about my career skills right now. I feel like I have imposter syndrome. I have no business being in this job. You know, and then it's your friends who are your historians and you're sort of, they're like your bank of confidence that you can make a withdrawal from and you can borrow when your funds are low. And then that's what you give to them too. And then you're like, okay, thank you. You're right. I don't believe it, but I believe you believe it. And I know you're a bad bitch. So if you like me, I must be doing something right. Okay. And it just kind of gets you over that hump from A to B.
yeah, I love that. Are there any women that you look up to in your life? Like, who would you say is like a role model that you have, or somebody that just gives you inspiration every time you need a boost?
You,
Oh, stop
you,
it, Shallon. I love
literally,
you.
literally, I'm serious. I can't tell you how many wars you have prevented me from started just by like existing. And just the poise and the like, this sounds so silly, but like the brand that you've created that is so like feminine and loving and inclusive and strong and just above so much baloney that's going on in the world. Like, it was so inspiring to me because, you know, in what we do, we don't have a boss. There's no like Geneva Convention of rules of engagement. We can do whatever we want. And absolute power can corrupt absolutely. You know, if you're having a bad day, it's like, ah. And I'm like, no, we're not going to behave like that. We're business women around here.
Oh,
Mona would not. Mona wouldn't do that.
I love you.
So, I mean, that if you think I give stuff to you, I mean, you give it back to me.
Thank you. That means the world. Honestly, I mean, a lot of my strength has come from watching your content. So thank you for giving to all of us women out there. What do you want to be remembered by? Because you are doing a lot and you're sharing a lot of information. You're sharing a lot of inspiration too to people to change and be better. What is like your mission, and like what would you like to say in like 5 years time, like people to remember Shallon for?
I would almost love to be remembered for becoming obsolete. I would love it if the next generation of girls don't need me. They're like, we know.
We need you. No.
You know, I would love that. But, you know, I would love to be remembered for like, as just like a key. You know, so many girls are like, you've helped me become and mature and grow. And it's like, I just gave you keys to a house you already owned. I just helped you pick the lock and get into this fantastic new level of yourself and this whole new space of existence. I just kind of gave you a little nudge, you know? So I want to be known as like the key master for confidence and growth. And just, I'm so tired. I've watched so many women, myself included, waste their lives feeling bad about themselves and like they're not doing enough and they aren't enough. And I literally don't know one man who feels that way about himself. Not one. I mean, they are like, oh, look at what I did. They're just so goddamn proud of themselves. Everything they do, everything that comes out of their body, they're so proud of. And it's like, we are so like constantly second guessing our gifts and our accomplishments. And it's like, enough. I just want to imbue every woman with the confidence of a mediocre white man, honestly.
I love that. And you have given me keys to so much confidence and strength and just so much awareness. So you're already doing that, honestly. And I know that you're just going to continue to do it more and more. And that's why I really hope that everybody watching today, if you're not following Shallon already, make sure you're following her and just keep coming up with this amazing content, because really you're doing so much good for the world. And I know you probably think it's just entertaining sometimes, but no, it's so much more than entertaining. Like, you are really like inspiring people to be the best version of themselves.
That means so much to me. You know, it's tough, and I take criticism. You know, I'm a fighter, but I'm a lover too, as we all are. I'm a marshmallow. So it's tough to hear people say mean things. And it's like, sometimes it's like, why am I doing this? What is this? I need to just go work at Cinnabon and have a chill life. And, you know, so that means the world to me.
I have to say, like, sometimes when you take like a few days off or like even a week off, I panic. I'm like, oh my God, where is she? I need the content. So please don't ever do that. I will like have a panic attack.
I will never retire.
I did just go and like rewatch other videos, but like, please don't stop making content. We need you.
I won't. Just for you. If I have an audience of one, it is the only one that I need.
I'll be there watching it like from A to Z. So you've got me forever.
Okay, good. Excellent.
So before we jump off, I always like to end my videos with a quote. And I know you're like the queen of quotes, and I've like saved almost all of them. But if you had like one kind of mantra or quote that you want to share with the world, what would it be?
Oh, I'm trying to think of one that's not evil. Like Genghis Khan quotes in my foreground. One of my favorites is, go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you've imagined. I've had that on my wall since I was about 15, and I just always go back to it. Live the life you've imagined.
Absolutely. And everything is possible. You just got to keep trying and stay confident. I love that. It's so beautiful. Oh, well, thank you so much, Shallon, for being on my channel and for just existing, because I love you. And I meant when I said it in the very beginning, like, you've really changed my life. You're probably one of the biggest influences in my life, for at least my last half. You know, I think the first half was Tony Robbins. The second half is you. So like, literally, you've been a game changer for me. And I just want to thank you again for being here. And everybody who's watching, please make sure you follow Shallon, give her lots of love. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and comment down below what you'd like to ask Shallon on part 2, because I definitely want to have you back. If you're willing to
Yeah.
be back on, I'd love to have you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm here for you whenever. I am just,
Thank
you
you.
own me, Mona.
Thank you so much. I love you so much.
I love you, darling. I'll see you soon.
Love you, Jen. Bye.